Thanks for tuning in to Sportswomen Australia, a podcast celebrating the up-and-coming and bona fide female stars of Australian sport, as well as the female power brokers behind the scenes. Tiffany Cherry joining you on my own today with my regular co-host Amanda Salanti, unable to make it, but filling her void are two guests today instead of one. Two superstars of Australian netball as I welcome Sister Act, Kelsey and Madi Browne. Welcome, girls.
Thank you.
Well, now,
thanks for having us.
What a great intro.
Well, I haven't finished yet. So both are mid-court superstars, and together now they play with Collingwood Magpies in the Suncourt Super League, our netball league. So Kelsey, who joins us on the phone from Sydney, she's just interrupted her picnic. Thanks for that. She's been enjoying a well-deserved break after doing her ACL, as Maddie is also enjoying at the moment. Kelsey's played 18 times for Australia, made a debut for the Melbourne Vixens in 2015, actually replacing you, Maddie, when you did your first ACL. She went on to help lead Sunshine Coast Lightning to 2 Super Netball titles in 2017 and 18 before rejoining her sister at the Magpies in 2019. So great to have you, Kelsey. And Maddie, 61 tests for the green and gold over 8 years, was vice-captain of Australia before retiring from national duties last year with Commonwealth Games gold and silver medals around your neck. You made your domestic league debut with the Melbourne Kestrels back in 2006, if you can believe it, that long ago. Played 24 matches before the Kestrels merged with the Phoenix. I remember it became the Vixens, which you ended up captaining. You played 106 times, 2 seasons stint with the West Coast Fever. I'll ask you why. Before joining the Magpies as their inaugural skipper in 2017. And obviously another star mid-quarter. You sometimes add centre as well to your wing attack role. And you're out at the moment with a knee reconstruction as well. Now, we'll get to that, of course. But first, Kels, you're on a break in Sydney, so you did your knee a few months ago. How mentally tough has the rehab been for you?
It has been a pretty new experience for me. I've had a couple of ankle recos, but they're nothing like a major sort of knee reconstruction. I've been lucky enough, obviously, to have Maddie go through it for me. It's not great for her, but she's helped me through a lot so far. I think for me, it was the toughest when our team went on to sort of play in their first final, and all I wanted to do was be there, but I'd had my operation 4 days before, so couldn't even be at the game to support the girls, let alone be on the court. So that's been pretty hard. And probably, if I'm honest, now watching the Diamonds over in New Zealand at the moment, that's another tough thing to deal with. So I think that's the hardest so far. I think the rehab for me has actually been pretty nice. I've just had to wait for sort of my swelling and everything in the initial stages of rehab to sort of fall into place before I can move any further. But yeah, I think the hardest thing for me has been watching teams that I would normally play in go on to have to play without me and do great things.
And Maddie, as we've both alluded to, so you've done your knee twice, back in 2015 and then 2 weeks before the season actually started, in fact, in a pre-season match against the Vixens. Mm-hmm. What is it like from your perspective, the mental anguish of going through it? I suppose even the second time around.
Yeah, I think the first time, everything like Kelsey's experiencing, everything's really new, and it's sometimes really hard because you're like, oh my goodness, have I heard it? What's that pain? Because you don't know what it's like. And I think for me, this second time, it's been a totally different experience because it can be bad knowing what's ahead, but it's also kind of like, oh, I know what that is and I can just push through, or I'm probably willing to just kind of, push a little bit harder, a little bit quicker. So it's hard sitting on the sidelines and hearing her say that. I know exactly what it's like. I mean, my season ended before it even started this year, and all I wanted to do was go out there and wear the black and white stripes with Kels because that's what we'd been training so hard in the pre-season. So to not be able to don that dress at all this season with her and then to sit there and watch her go through it, it was really hard because, I mean, this year's been tough for both of us in different aspects. And I'd said to her, I'm going to take all the pain this year. Like, it's just all going to come to me. Like, I'm totally fine to deal with whatever comes. You're going to have the greatest year. It's going to be all about world champs and you're going to kill it kind of thing. So then when she heard herself, like, a part of me really kind of died inside as well. I was like, oh my goodness, I don't ever want her to have to experience this because it's really difficult, really hard.
What was it like for your parents?
Yeah, I think with me going through the second time, I got scans to say that it was fine, and then I went and saw the surgeon and he said we're going to have to go in for surgery. And I'll never forget sitting in that car and I called Kelsey And I said, it's not good. And she said, what do you mean it's not good? And I was like, it's just not good. Like, I have to go in. And she was like, yeah, but it's fine. We had the results. Like, everything's all good. And Kelsey was really positive. And then I had to call mum and dad, and they were like, what do you mean? And I was just like, I think I've done it. Like, so they've like drove up the freeway pretty quickly and came and supported me. And yeah, I think part of them this year it's been really hard on them, because parents just want to shelter you from all of the hurt and pain and want to take it all. And it's been kind of good. It's bonded us a lot closer together as a family, I think, to be like, you can't shelter us from all of this. Sometimes we have to go through it. And I think both of us have been rocks for them, not just them being rocks for us through all of it.
And Kelsey, you said that obviously it's been made easier somewhat with Maddie having gone through it, and you can lean on her. For other people listening out there who have or are undergoing a knee reconstruction, going through a major surgery, major injury, what has Maddie imparted on you that's made the journey somewhat easier?
Yeah, it's funny. I have been getting a lot of questions through my Instagram and stuff around people who are actually in a very similar position to me or have done it the same week that I've done it. From my own experience, it's been good to pass on advice to them and sort of talk to them about what I'm going through. But with Maddie, she spoke about it before, but there's been times that I'm not really sure about the pain that I'm going through. I've never really had knee injuries before, so I don't know what it's supposed to feel like. Or there was a few times that I'd get out of the shower or twist a particular way in bed and feel like I'd done my knee because I wasn't confident in the pain or what I was supposed to be going through. So I think in the early stages, that was the biggest one. So I'd call her and say, I've done this. She's like, nope, you're solid. It's fine. It'll be the strongest it's ever been. And just sort of hearing that made me sort of think, yeah, okay, I'm absolutely fine. I'm stressing about nothing. And then also, I guess with this one, hers is a little bit different to mine. It's her second time, but just talking about, okay, where should I be at? I'm 6 weeks post-op, or where should I be at when I'm 3 months post-op, or we're going on a holiday, will I be able to do this? And just her being able to reassure me that, yep, you'll be able to do this clinic on this date is really good for me, because I can actually plan out what I want to do and know that I will be fine. I think if I was just going through it myself, I would probably have just put everything aside. She's actually given me a real, I don't know, inspired me a little bit to live a bit of a normal life because I can. I think sometimes you go through a major injury and you think you have to put everything aside for rehab, but I have been able to go on holidays and do things and continue working outside of netball, and it's given me a good balance that then I can go into my rehab and, yeah, I'm in a good mindset.
Actually, I read something, Maddie, about you, and you revealed that you were so focused and a little bit of a control freak and all that kind of stuff, and yet you've now sort of thrown a bit of it in the air and said, well, what the hell, let's just chill out a little bit. And people have said, oh my God, I love this new Maddie.
Yeah. So
how much has the injury changed your approach?
Well, as you mentioned, like the first time I was like, okay, I've got to get back, I've got to play for Diamonds, and it's all about netball, and I just did netball, that then eventually throughout the whole 12-month rehab, then when I finally got to play, I was exhausted, like emotionally, physically, mentally exhausted. And I'd waited for that moment to finally get back to play, and I was like, oh, when this happens, then I'll be happy. And I was like, but now I've got it and it's not fulfilling me at all. So I think this time around, it's been really good to kind of go, yes, ideally both Kelsey and I want to get back and play netball, but our dad's been really good, because he said, like, I know you two want nothing more than to step out there on that netball court, but I personally, he says, I don't care if I never get to see you play netball again. I just want you to be happy, and I want you to live a healthy life, and is quite holistic in the approach, going, just be good for life, and then if netball comes, it's a bonus. So I think that type of grounding has been really good for us, because, yeah, of course we live and breathe netball for so long, but it's not who you are. It doesn't define who you are, and whether we play together or we don't, or get to wear the green and gold again for it's not going to determine who we are as people. So it's more about making sure that we're happy outside.
For you, your career over 14, 15 years, you've achieved an enormous amount. I mean, you were twice crowned the best netballer in Australia, which more or less is probably the best in the world. Did you, when you did it the second time, was there ever a moment where you said, that's it, I'm done?
To be honest, not once through this whole journey have I thought this is it. And obviously I've retired from Aussie duties, and I knew, like, I'd got to that point and I was like, I know this is time. And I think in my head and in my heart, like, I'll know when it's time to step away. And probably if anything major happened again, I'd be like, you know what, this is my body saying enough is enough. You've done everything you can. But the fighter in me and the athlete in me is like, no, I can do this. I've come back before. I want to try again. And I'll give it everything, and what will be, will be. So it's not, as I said, I can't wait to play again, but at the end of the day, it's going to make me the happiest person, and it's going to be so fulfilling when it happens, because I've got so many other wonderful things to be grateful for in my life that, yeah.
And for you, Kelsey, to come home to Victoria, more or less, from the Sunshine Coast, from Lightning, where you'd won 2 national titles, which is phenomenal. And people were saying to you, this is the craziest decision you're ever making. You're throwing your career away. When you made the decision to come to Collingwood, you actually hadn't been selected for the Diamonds yet, I believe. So what was the driving reason for you to more or less not necessarily throw it away, but to put a big question mark over your future in netball?
Yeah, it's been an interesting year, and again, Maddie spoke before about us coming together as a family, and I guess throughout the year, this year, there has been times that I've called Maddie or she's messaged me before I've even called her and said, you didn't make a bad decision, you've made a good one. There has been times still throughout the year that I've wondered whether I did make the right decision, but at the time, deciding to come back home, I think there was just that pull of I needed to be there with my family. I'd spent 2 years away, and I'd absolutely love my time on the Sunshine Coast. I don't have a bad word to say about the club. I absolutely loved it. However, netball, I was sort of getting to 26, 27, and there was other things in my life that I knew I wanted to be there for, and I felt like I was missing out on. I just want to be there for my family. I wanted to go home for Sunday roast. I wanted to go out for dinner with my parents or see my friends, and I felt like my 2 years on the coast, I'd really sacrificed those things and things outside of my life. My netball was amazing, the Sunshine, but I think the rest of my life suffered a little bit. I was quite isolated from everybody. I had my netball friends, but I hadn't had a lot of things going on outside of netball, and I really wanted to come home and, set up the next stage of my life, which would be integrating back into my family and into my friendship group, making sure that I've got things ticking away on the outside. Yeah, and I just knew that that's where I wanted to be, Melbourne, and, home with my family. And so that was a massive part of it. I remember having a conversation with Madison, and she was like, be prepared to throw diamonds away if you come to Magpies. We're prepared to fight for a position. And we have really honest conversations like that as sisters. And I just remember the conversation stuck in my head, and I still wanted to come. I still thought, the place I need to be is at home. And considering the year we've had personally, myself and Madison as well, I know that it was the right decision. I needed to be there for her, and our relationship as sisters has grown, I think, because of it.
And we'll get to that in a moment, the relationship between the two of you. But for you also, Kelsey, you suffered some depression. You went through some dark times up on the Sunshine Coast. There were things happening off the court. Obviously, as you just said, the isolation and moving away from your family, but you broke up with your boyfriend, you'd built a house, etc. Take us through those times in terms of how it affected you, and also from the perspective of how you were able to play so well on the court when you were dealing with all that off the court.
So I did have a couple of really good relationships with girls when I was up on the Sunshine Coast, and I think I look at it now and think because of those I did get through it, and I loved rocking up to work every day. So I loved going to netball, and it was kind of a bit of an escape. I'd go home and deal with a lot of things outside of netball, but netball was really strong and solid for me, and I'm quite successful in it while I was there. The biggest thing for me was, just focusing on things that made me happy while I was on the Sunshine Coast. Any time that I was feeling a bit down, or I was going through some depression or anything like that, I'd just try and focus on things that would make me happy and things that I was passionate about. It was a tough time up there. I definitely managed to find different things that made me happy, but I think the biggest thing was having relationships with people like Jeeva Mentor or Makare. They really got me through it, and just knowing that, I was sort of stand my own 2 feet. I didn't have my family there to support me, so I think I learned a lot about how I support myself, how I could get myself through things, and that was the biggest growing up stage of my life, I think, and something that I definitely needed and has put me in good stead, I think, for where I want to be now as a netballer, as a person, as a leader. I'm quite grateful for the challenges that I faced while I was up there anyway.
Madi, Kelsey said that when you had that discussion, which I read went for 3 hours or whatever it was, you put it to her. Are you prepared to more or less throw these things away? What went through your mind when she said, I'm going to come back? And also, how much of a difference did you see a change in your sister from who she became when she was, I suppose, away from your shadow, really?
Well, I remember having the phone call when she said, Nolene's called me and I don't know what to do. Should I go? And I was like, absolutely. Like, this is such an incredible opportunity, Kels. And I know that at times we've both said, you know, she's lived under my shadow, and at times then, you know, we've been compared a lot to each other, and I've never wanted that stress or pressure on her or for it to ever be like us to have to compete against each other. So when she said, I've got this chance at the Sunshine Coast, I was like, absolutely, I'll be your number one support. I will be there. And even when she was up there, she would still call me and I'd put the sister hat on and I'd put the opposition captain hat aside and go, I don't care what you're saying about netball and stuff. Like, I'm first and foremost your sister, so I'll always be there. So when she called to say that she was coming back home, my first initial response was like, yes. Like, none of my netball stuff really kind of came into my head initially because I guess, as I said, being a sister, all I ever want to do is protect her. And I knew all the stuff that had been going on, and I was like, I cannot think of a better place for you to come back home to. And obviously it was Collingwood, not Vixens. And yeah, as I said, my first thing was like, yes, I want you to come, and can I help you get here? Like, what can I do to help you get here? I said, and then I think when eventually the discussions came, Rob actually came up to me and was like, look, we're talking to Kelsey. And I was like, oh, are you now? Like,
oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't know about that kind of thing. And it did flicker in my head a little bit going, oh gosh, like, I am 4 years older, and why do you need a younger, fitter, stronger, smarter version of me? Like, why?
Please.
No, it was true. It was true. Like, part of me was just like,
not true.
yeah, part of me was like, hang on a second. Like, where does this actually leave me? But yeah, we had the discussion, and I said, I am here for you to make me get better, and I want to help you get better. And why do we have to compete? Why can't we play together? So, you know, we've both played centre at times, but we've never had to for the teams that we've been in. Like, we've been the best wing attack option. So, yeah, in the pre-season we were like, well, why can't we be the force that the other centre quarters in the team have to fight for? So, yeah, it was awesome.
And when you talk about the other centre quarters, you've got Kim Revellion and Ash Brazel. So 2 huge names.
Yeah.
Has it, the dynamic of the traditional style of, the selection of a team changed? I read this in an article, and I was like, I want to ask you this in terms of the starting 7 versus those on the bench, or is it more sort of a rotational thing because you've got these 4 really exceptional players in the midcourt? How does it work?
Well,
Can I answer this one?
Yes, you can. Of course you can.
No, you go, Maddie.
No, you go.
I was just going to say that I think netball is heading in that direction, and obviously when I signed and it was, we've got 4 amazing centre quarters, we really did have to do the work, I think, with the coaches around a lot of communication and discussion around what each person's role was going to be. And you kind of became a bit more of a role player, and we unfortunately during the season didn't have the ability to do it with Maddie out. But I think at the start of the season it was a lot around communication, and that this is the way that netball's going to go. If we want the game to be quicker and faster and fitter, someone might come on for 5 minutes and do a particular role and then get switched again, or you might start the game because you're a really good starter, but somebody else might come on and be a huge impact player, and they have as much influence on the game as you do as a starter. And I actually have found that in Diamonds the last couple of years that there was a bit of a shift with that as well. It wasn't, this is your starting 7 and you've got 5 players on the bench. It was, this is your role for this game. You're going to be playing against this person based around the opposition. They'd change their starting lineup based around different factors that would influence the game. And I think that's really exciting for netball. And if we can get to a point, and I know that Collingwood's getting to that now, that we've got 10 really, really strong players who can switch on and off. Someone can go on and do a job. I know this year we had Gabby Sinclair in a couple of games start, a game off. She pretty much took the barrage from the goal defence. She took the physicality, and then Nat came on, played 3 quarters of amazing, crafty, really smart netball. So I think it's pretty cool that netball's moving in that direction, and it would be cool to see, I don't know, interchanges or anything like that come into it. I don't know whether Maddie feels differently, but that's how we sort of discussed it at Collingwood, and it was pretty cool once everyone got on board, and we definitely had to have buy-in. So the 4 centre quarters had to sit in there and be okay that, yep, you might have been a 4-quarter player at another team, but you might be a 3-quarter, a 2-quarter, a 5-minute player here. But just know that your role is going to have as much of an impact on the game as somebody else.
Yeah, I totally agreed with the new format. I think netball's going. It's faster. It's more intense, and it's like, why can't we keep the opposition constantly on their toes? Like, they're going to have 4 world-class centre quarters to have to deal with, and we can like manipulate our combinations in so many different ways. Like, that's got to be hard to come up against. And, you know, with only a couple of 2-minute breaks and timeouts and things like that, like we could actually, you know, create a lot of havoc for oppositions. And I think in the preseason tournament, when we were up at the Team Girls in Brisbane, we showed that, and people were like, oh my goodness, I don't want to have to come up against this. And I think Kelsey even said eventually, once obviously I'd even got injured and she went away with Diamonds, they were like, we feared you and Kels the most because you were so unpredictable.
How do you stop you?
Yeah, because you could just, both of you could take the load. Like when Kelsey was dominating feeds, I'd hang back, and then all of a sudden I could. So they were just like, it was so unpredictable on how to shut both of you down or try and shut one, because the other one would just pick up the load.
Do you think in any way, with Collingwood coming in, and obviously with a football background, GWS as well, and because that's what they do, that's what the successful teams, I know, working at Richmond, that's what they do. But a lot of the top teams, the rotation of players and just making sure that if there's not one, there's another, that influence has had an influence on netball. It's just a thought I'm throwing out there.
Yeah, I think the new rule of, constant interchanges, I think they'll probably bring it in maybe even next season. I know there was talk about it last preseason, which is why we practiced it at Team Girls, and I loved it. And for someone like me, probably edging towards the end of her career, I was like,
Not yet.
I'm happy to come on for 5 minutes and then come off and tag team and then go, all right, this is what you need to do for 5 minutes. Go on, do it, execute, come off. Like, it also just creates, like, you know, we're not going 7 playing 60 minutes and 3 sitting on the bench going, I've literally put a toenail on for the whole season. Like, it's good to be able to see some development in the young girls as well. And as an older player, I'm like, I could easily sit on the bench and help coach and play and come on. And I think that's an incredible role that hopefully we'll see in the future of netball.
Now, for both of you.
I think
You go.
Sorry. I do think the best teams in any code are the ones that have adopted that, that everyone's got a role to play. I know, talking to some players who play rugby or some players who play AFL, like the ones that know that they've got a role to go on and play, I feel like they're very successful teams. And if every player has bought into that and the culture is really solid, that I think, it goes a long way to success.
100%. So let's go back to where it all began. You're 4 years older, Maddie. How did netball start in the family? I mean, obviously AFLW wasn't on back then, and maybe not Auskick when you were around, I'm not sure. But your dad and your uncle played for Geelong. So where did the netball come into the family? Was it your mum?
Yeah, it was mum, and it was school netball where it all started for me. There was my best friend at school. She was year 2 and I was year 1, and we were in a composite together, and she had a netball skirt that had all the badges on it, and I said to mum, I want a netball skirt with a badge. Like, that's all I want.
It's all about the badges.
It was all about all the patches. And so, she was like, absolutely. And she coached on a Monday night with her best friend. And, I went down, and I think mum and dad joked the fact that for me, obviously there was a lot of sporting pedigree in the family with dad having played footy, and mum was, says she was a budding netballer, doesn't she, Kelsey? And we're like, you've had 2 daughters that play for Australia, take a back seat, please. But
she'll listen to this too.
But it just was about getting in amongst people, meeting new friends, and I would play goal shooter and I'd dance around the pole because I was doing dancing and singing at the time, and the ball would come near me and I'd look at them and show them my bib, and dad was like, yeah, can you go get the ball and do something? Like, you're so embarrassing. But eventually the light bulb clicked when I was probably about 6 or 8, and that's when Kelsey was like 4, and when she started to be a little bit more agile as a baby sister, it was like, okay, cool, now you're playing one-on-one defence on me, and then you're doing over the shot. And, we used to play backyard games and rollerblade basketball and all of this. So our love of sport was developed at a very, very young age, and netball and basketball were our 2 loves. We tried everything when we were growing up, but the whole reason I started playing sport was because I had juvenile arthritis in my right knee, and so they told Mum and Dad that I'd have to be on half an aspirin for the rest of my life, and Mum was like, no, not my child. So she was like, she's going to be active. So that's why I did swimming, aths, netball, basketball.
And you never had an issue until 2015, really?
Yeah, pretty much. So, yeah, I think that whole holistic approach of Mum being like, no, we're not going down the medical way, like no medication. No, I want her just to be fit and healthy. I think we've definitely, Kelsey and I have adopted that in our way of life as well.
And for you, Kels, what was it like as the younger sister? I'm a younger sister to a brother who's 4 years older, so I was beaten around the head, and I pretty much tried to do everything that he did, otherwise I was left behind. What was it like for you? Maddie just sort of gave us a little bit of an insight. There was a few bossy, you were told what to do here, there and everywhere.
Oh, I am not the bossy one.
I was going to say, I think we have different accounts of the same story a lot of the time. I feel like I was provoked, and I think, we had a pretty healthy rivalry. There's a lot of stories that have been thrown around at family dinners about me kicking Madison in the face, or I remember one time I had this is the best story, but I had a big tournament, and I don't know, maybe it was a trial for like some kind of state team, and Maddie and I were at the local basketball court, and we were playing one-on-one. Same thing. She was like, yeah, okay, next person who scores a goal wins. And I was like, must have been close to the ring or scoring or something like that. And she slammed me into the ground, and I hurt my collarbone. And there was really no love lost when it came to, competitive stuff at home. But we have spoken about how that has probably shaped our personalities and why we are the athletes that we are. I don't think anyone really let up on each other. And she was a lot bigger and stronger than me, 4 years older, and in that regard. But I think I became quite tough because she was never going to let me win just to let me win. I don't think Mum and Dad ever sort of mollycoddled us or anything. Yeah, no, it was never like that. It was sort of eat dirt or do whatever you want. And so, I feel like growing up in our household, I wouldn't have it any other way. I absolutely loved it. Some people might have thought, it was a bit too much tough love. We love our parents for what they did for us and how they brought us up, because I think that is, a big part of who we are now. And
your dad nicknamed you Wally. Is that true? Where did that originate from?
I have no idea. Probably a bit of where's Wally. I'm often known to just do whatever I'm obviously always a little bit MIA. I think I told my parents I was in Sydney when I was in Sydney. So it's, I think it's just a bit of, you're a bit of a Wally. I'm a bit clumsy, or, I'm just a bit of left of centre, I think, sometimes. So Dad would always say, go get him, Wall, and all of a sudden that became my name.
Did you get one?
So my middle name's Louise, and I always just got Lulu. So it's just Lulu and Wally.
Oh, you got the nice one.
Lulu and Wally, that's all it used to be. And we were laughing, obviously being sisters in the pre-season, there were times that I think the Collingwood coaches had to understand that our relationship is very different to other teammates within the team, but also know that... God. Yeah,
there's a bit of yelling at times, I believe. There was
this one time we did ball work, and we love doing ball work together because we can push each other and challenge each other, but we had to do it with no drops. And to Kelsey's credit, she was not going to let me have it easy. She was like, no, you can get that ball. That's why I'm putting it there, extend. But I'd done it 8 times.
I see where this is going.
I'd done it 8 times. I was so exhausted that in the end I was like, I need 5 minutes. And the girls were like, no, we can't have a break until you do it. I was like, give me 5 minutes. And Kelsey was like, she'll be fine. Just don't worry about it. And then we went out and did it. And everyone was like, is everything okay here? And we're like, yeah, no, we're fine. Just move on.
Yeah, just don't ask me about it.
Yeah, but we can probably actually teach a lot of our teammates a fair bit about having honest, genuine conversations and how you can have it, you address it, and then you move on. It's been quite interesting, I think, for the rest of the team to get to know us as sisters.
So, Kels, how was it for you Maddie's been involved in the system for calculations nearly a decade before you actually make your domestic debut with the Vixens in 2015 on the back of Madison doing her knee. How was it for you coming in to that environment? How big were those shoes to fill?
Yeah, huge, I'm going to say that. And I never really shy away from it now. I think I went through a period of time where, sorry, that's a bird, it's interrupting my picnic. I think I went through a couple of years of probably denying that I was in her shadow, or I remember having conversations with my mum sort of saying, I'm not going to play netball because if I play netball, all I'm going to be is Maddie's sister, and I don't want to do that. I'm just going to go and do musical theatre or become a lead singer of a rock band. And I just...
Can you sing?
I definitely wanted to...
She's a very good singer.
I can.
You can belt out a tune at the end.
So I sort of wanted to shy away from netball a little bit just because I felt the shoes and the shadow was quite overwhelming at times. And I think, sort of working through that a little bit, I saw, a number of psychs and just that was probably the biggest thing that I would go and talk to them about. I just feel like I am Madi Browne's sister. I don't have my own identity. I found it really difficult to figure out who I was as a person, let alone, who I was as a player. I went through sort of wanting to be exactly like her. One tournament, my mum tells a story that I dyed my hair black because her hair was black and I wanted everyone to know that I was Maddie's sister. So I sort of went through that. And then once I figured out that, no, you can be yourself. You are, your own person. And a lot of encouragement came from Maddie for that. I think, it sort of helped me, figure out who I sort of was in the netball world. I think also moving away to the Sunshine Coast helped that a fair bit. I obviously completely removed myself from the Victorian system. I wasn't involved in, Netball Victoria or anything like that anymore. I sort of became a Queenslander. And so I think up there, no offense, Maddie, but Madi Browne wasn't, as big a name as it was in Victoria. So I could sort of be Kelsey Browne and, forge my own sort of path. Yeah, I do think it was challenging. And I know that a lot of kids, again, have sort of messaged me and been like, oh, my sister is, or my older brother is really talented. And that's a thing that a lot of people go through. And I'm sure as an older sister, that older siblings, they go through their own sort of things. But as younger siblings, I felt very compared, and it still happens occasionally, but I'm much more equipped to deal with it now and just accepting that, that's my lot, and I'm comfortable with who I am, and I know my sister's amazing, but I can forge my own path.
You've sort of alluded to it somewhat, but how aware were you? And again, probably not so much now because obviously Kelsey's played for Australia, but how aware were you of how big those shoes were to fill?
I knew she felt that, and I guess as she kind of mentioned, at the same time, I didn't ask to put that pressure on her either. I was just given opportunities as a youngster because mum and dad wanted me to be active and make new friends and be healthy, that I'd been thrust into those opportunities and I would just make the most of it, kind of thing. So, it's sometimes really hard because you're like, I don't want her to be compared. And, as we've said, we've had a great relationship and we kind of lost our way a little bit together and got separated a little bit, and now we've come back together because of some of those challenges. But at the same time, I want nothing more. The day I got to watch her play for Australia, I stood up in the stands and I couldn't have been prouder because I knew it had been really hard and I knew it had been really difficult. But and at times I think she was just like, oh, cool, here's Maddie winning another award, or whoop-de, here we go again. Do you know what I mean? I know that she's laughing because she knows that's true. But, at the same time, I think being able to share a lot of these moments now with her, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Kels, but I think she has a totally different found love and respect for me and what I was able to do before, and how I kind of pushed that pathway to show her things that were possible, but ultimately the choice was her. And as we've got older, as I said, I'm so proud of everything. And if she wanted to go down the singing pathway, absolutely, I'll be the first person there in the front row watching. I love to see her being successful, and I know it's been really challenging. And I think she now sees a little bit from my side that, I wasn't doing these things to make it hard. We were just doing it because
you're doing your thing.
Yeah, we were being
I
us.
think I also now can appreciate what Maddie achieved. I mean, even just in your introduction before hearing it read out, I think sometimes it becomes part and parcel if you're there to experience it. And probably at times there was a bit of bitterness there. I was like, oh my God, she's just won a second Liz up. Like, how am I ever going to live up to this? And, you know, it's a bit woe is me. But listening to what you read out before, it just, now that I've sort of been in the system for a little while, like, damn, it's hard to achieve all of those things. So, you know, that's unbelievable that she was able to do that. And I think she did say that a lot more respect and appreciation for what she was able to do before me. And
you didn't have anyone really showing you the way. Yes, your dad had played football, but you would have been a baby, if not even born, at the time. So for you were, I think, around you're a teenager, late teens, and it was a little bit of tough love that came your way in terms of you'd made your Australian debut, but then you didn't get chosen for 2010 for Delhi. You missed the World Champs or World Cup the following year. What was said to you, and how did that sort of change your approach to your career?
Growing up, I'd been quite successful. Like, teams I'd tried out for, I'd made. Obviously, I'd been, you know, on the court, off the court. You know, I'd had a little bit, but a lot of the tough came in my early 20s. And yeah, I was told, you're unfit, you're too fat, you're not consistent enough, you're too, like, sometimes they're too short, you're too young, you're inexperienced. Like, all of those things that, to me, I was just like, but half of those things aren't measurable, and I can't change those things about me. I can't change the fact that I haven't got experience in certain things. But I remember Julie Hornweg telling me, after I'd been starting 7 of Kestrels, joined the Vixens, sat on the bench majority of the year, was in the Diamond squad, got delisted because I hadn't played at all that year, and she told me half of that. And I remember being obviously 20 going, what would she know? Like, honestly, like, who is this woman telling me these things? And I was driving home back down to Geelong on the freeway, and I was like raging. And then I got home and I was telling Mum and Dad, and they were like, oh my goodness, like, you know, where's her tat kind of thing. But it made me think, like, she's so right. And now I look back and I say, thank you, Julie, for being open and honest with me, because you gave me the harsh reality check. And Mum and Dad had instilled that in us as juniors. As Kelsey said, we used to go, I don't want to go home with Dad in the car after a basketball game. I know I played really bad. He's going to cop it to us. But it's made us resilient. It's made us really have to fight for what we've, like, earned kind of thing. It's not, oh, you deserve it. We have never felt entitled. And we want to work hard and actually know that we have earned the right to those accolades or those achievements, not just, oh, here it is on a silver platter, there you go. So yeah, that tough love was hard, but I think it's also made us, as Kelsey mentioned earlier, the people and the players who we are today, because yeah, we've actually had to endure a fair bit to get to where we are. And
within a couple of years, you pretty much hit the jackpot. You won more or less everything that could have been won as a netballer. Commonwealth Games gold medal. You got Liz Ellis Diamond award for the second time. The only player to be crowned the best twice in Australia. How was that year? Did you grasp at the time how incredible that was?
I probably didn't grasp it until the year after, when it was all taken away with the first knee. And then I was like, hang on a second, like, wow, look what you've just been able to do. And although you can't do it now, and there's never any guarantee that you'll ever be able to do it again, I think, I did reflect and go, gosh, that's been an incredible season, an incredible year. Like, as I said, once again, it's like terrible that the opportunities was taken away from injury, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm so grateful that I was ever given those chances to even have those opportunities and have those experiences. So I think only time allows you to reflect on those things. And even as Kelsey said, you know, like, it's once she's now out of the Sunshine Coast bubble, like, look back and go, we went back-to-back premierships. Like, that is incredible.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So those sporting awards and those sporting achievements are wonderful, but I think both Kelsey and I would say the proudest achievements that we have to date is the fact that we are very secure and very happy with the people that we are, and we're so grateful for the opportunities that Mum and Dad gave us. And all the incredible things we do have in our life. Netball's huge and really important because we live, breathe, eat, sleep and do everything for the Magpies when we're in that bubble. But at the same time, it's not who we are as people, and that's probably our greatest achievements.
And I want to dive into pre-Gold Coast Com Games. You were in and out of the team, and you probably got to a point where you didn't know whether you were going to be, or probably even maybe believe that you were going to be selected. It was 3:11 p.m. on a Wednesday, 2018, and the call was coming from the coach to tell you whether you're in or out, and you actually had the car door open. Can you tell us the rest of the story and why the door was open?
Yeah, because I think I was going to be sick either way because I was like, and I don't want to have to clean my car. So when you know me, I'm a little bit OCD and a little bit clean. So yeah, I was like, if I walk into this, yeah. But I didn't believe that I was going to make the team. Kelsey could probably vouch for the fact that Christmas we were down at Lawn at the holiday house, and I was training every single day, going to the gym, doing this running, and I was like, why am I even doing this? Like, there's this really, and they obviously had the quad series in January, so I would sit and watch those games and I'd be like, I should be there. Why aren't I there? It's annoying that I can't have control over this. So I didn't really believe that I had a chance, but I thought if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go to this camp because Lisa had told me I had 4 days to change their mind. And they'd gone away, they'd won the quad series, 4 days, came back for the camp, and I just gave it absolutely everything. And I'll remember the physio Span, she came up to me in the dining hall at the AAS and she was like, way to drop a bomb, Maddie, like way to drop a bomb. And I was like, thanks. She's like, you've been exceptional. And I was like, well, at the end of the day, if I don't make the team, that's really good pat on the back for me. And I sat in that car door. I just wanted to be alone. And I was shaking. And as Kels knows, it's like 3:05, that's your time slot. You pick up the phone and you're like, oh my God, it's Lisa. Do I answer? Do I not? Oh, I know I have to take this. Yeah. So I took it and I put it up to my ear and she reads the script like, da, da, da. And I was like, Lisa, can you just get to the point? Like, I'm so nervous. And she was like, you're in. And I just went, spat out the door, and then I started crying. And then when I obviously rang Mum and Dad, they were like, it's okay. It doesn't matter that you haven't made it. I was like, I've made it. And they were just like, what the hell? Even like Kelsey this year, Kelsey was a mess. And I was like, oh no, she hasn't made it. She's like, no, I've made it. And I was like, get your shit together, girl. Like, this is so exciting. But I've been that person as well, so I know what it's like.
And then the Commonwealth Games, and then the actual gold medal match, you lose by a goal to England. Tell us about that.
Well, like the whole week had been really good because we were like smashing all of our results. But I remember sitting there in a room with Laura Geitz at one stage and I was like, where do you think we really are? Because we'd obviously 4 years ago been in Glasgow together, and I was like, where do you think we're sitting? Like, I'm slightly anxious about this. Like, I think the results are great. We're doing really well as a team, but I feel like there's a bit of complacency coming in. And I guess because both her and I hadn't been on the last couple of tours, I was like, is it just me being an older person and I'm looking into things that I don't think? And she's like, nah, I feel it a bit as well. And but at the same time, we were like, look, we've been coming here to bring a role. We kind of voiced it to Seabass, who was in our room as well, and chatted a little bit about it. And she's like, no, I think we're feeling good. And we're like, great, cool, like, are we just old? Is it this younger generation? Are they just a bit different? Maybe we're a bit outdated. I don't know.
They are.
Yeah. Maybe it's us. So, yeah, I like going in, I was always really nervous about England. And then to be sitting there, I guess, having started the game and then being obviously put to the bench in the dying seconds, I just remember sitting there going, oh, I feel sick. Like, this is horrible. And, when the obviously siren went, we lost by 1. I was just like, it just breaks your heart, rips your heart open. And I knew, I think at that moment, I was like, I'm never going to go to another Commonwealth Games. This was absolutely it. So I wasn't even sure whether I'd even play for Australia or again. So I was like, this could be my absolute last match. But then when, you see your family and you get around the team and it's like, it's okay. Like, yeah, it hurts, but I look at the gold medal and I look at that silver medal, and they both are very different experiences, but they both mean a lot to me because I know how hard I worked for that silver, how hard I worked for that gold, but also the people and the person I am, I think, today, from having to, not have it, as I said, smooth sailing. Like the silver's hard, but it's still so rewarding.
And they reflect actually your career. The gold being the pinnacles and the silver being you've actually really had to overcome all those obstacles, and it hasn't necessarily quite been what you wanted it to be.
Yeah, and I mean, sitting there watching Kelsey this year and then them going down by one, I was like, oh my goodness, I know what it feels like. And there is that bit of emptiness because you're like, I've got to wait another 4 years for this. But at the same time, like, not every person gets that opportunity to go out and stand on that transverse line and wear those green and gold colours. So every opportunity you get, you're like, yep, this is just me, this is my lot in life, but gosh, what an experience and journey to even be part of it.
Hey, most people, I've never experienced from that perspective the green and gold. An amazing experience and achievement from both of you. Kels, one sort of last question before I throw something to the two of you. I've read that you love the fight in sport, and for you that's what sport represents. Can you define that for us?
Yeah, I feel like sometimes it's hard to put into words, but Maddie sort of mentioned it before that throughout both of our careers, we've never really had anything handed to us. And I think if I look at why I play sport, I really love that competitive part of it. It just makes me feel, I don't know, really alive, to be honest. And I think that comes down to, you fight, you go out there and you fight to win a game with your teammates. You go out there and you fight for your position. You are constantly fighting to be better than you were the day before, whether that's in the gym, whether that's out on court. I just want to go out and every single training session, I want to win the game. I want to win the training session. I want to be the best that I can possibly be. And I know that that's how a lot of, people look at sport, that, it's competitive and stuff like that. But I think when you're inside it, it means a little bit more. Maddie mentioned it before. If I'm fighting to be better, then I'm obviously pushing up the standards of other people. Hopefully they're fighting to try and be better than I am and be better than themselves. And I think that feeling that you get when you have actually achieved something because you've fought so damn hard and you've put in blood, sweat, tears, you've sacrificed, that feeling is just, I think, second to none. And you can go out there and you can finish a session and you just sort of think, wow, like I put in everything. I've really pushed myself. I've learned so much about myself throughout this whole process. And here I am at the end of it all. I don't care if I really win or lose, but I know that I put everything into it. And yeah, I just feel like my whole career has sort of come down to that, just that I'm willing to fight. I'm probably willing to scrap maybe a little bit more than some others, and I might not be the most talented or the smartest or the strongest or whatever, but I know damn sure that I have work ethic and I'll fight, anyone for a position, even if it's my sister. So yeah, I think that's what I mean about it, and that feeling when you get it, I just absolutely love it, and it just drives me all the time.
It's even the fight that I know Kelsey's even had. Like, yeah, there's a physical side, but all of us have mental fights as well. Like, and the fight to just get up every day and have to rock up because there's other people relying on you at training can be really hard. The fight that, like everyone has an opinion these days, and, like the fight to know also, like she said, that you, like, people are talking and people say these things, but just to know who you are deep down and being okay with that. And it's all right for everyone to say what they think, and rumours spread and this is said and but yeah, it can be really, really hard. So to be in it for so long is challenging. And as I said, like as Kelsey mentioned, that physical fight, but also that mental fight to be able to be who you are within like a certain framework can be difficult. But I think she's probably shown that, you love me, you hate me, that's okay, but I'm proud of who I am, and we're proud of who she is as well.
I think you put all the BS aside, sport really brings out the true essence of who you really are.
Yes.
That's how I view it. Winding up, I did read that you've played, I believe, 5 quarters together. Is that true at the Vixens?
Something like that, probably.
Is it a match and a bit?
Oh, who knows? It's probably the best match put together with 2 minutes here, 3 minutes there, 5 minutes there. What do you think, Kels? It's probably our best. I
genuinely think it's 2 minutes here, 5 minutes there. I don't think we fully got a whole quarter together.
Well, we did in the pre-season for Magpies at Team Girls, and even still, like, there was some really good. Actually, I'll probably never forget that game, even if we never get to play together again. And even if we do, like,
don't say that.
No, I will always remember it. Like, it was just so funny.
Tell us about it.
Oh, because I was playing centre and Kelsey was playing wing attack, and I wasn't giving her the ball in the first second like she wanted. And like that I just think that, I don't know whether you remember.
Were you deliberately doing it?
No, she wasn't free.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Like she was getting there.
I obviously thought I could beat 7 defenders, and I was available, Madison, obviously.
Yeah. But we had
was she screaming at you?
Yeah, like verbally, like, give me that ball. And I was like, you're not free. Can you just calm down? And
I'm your captain.
I just loved that. I just loved that game because it was just kind of both of us just in that moment playing. We had some great passages of play, but then we had like the little sister tiff, and then we had the moment on the bench where she was like, I can't even look at you. I'm not even going to talk to you. And then we got back out, and then to even win, and even Nat Medhurst was like, is everything okay here? And we're like, shut up, Nat, just move over there, just shoot the goals.
We're fine.
To then winning, and then obviously it being against Vixens was kind of a little bit bittersweet for both of us. Like, yeah, that's probably our best game together so far.
So then, final question, what would it be like to be able to walk out? Even if it's for one last time, hopefully it's for many more. But what goes through your head in that dream of, that day yet to come again?
I'm basing my whole rehab off it, so I'm hoping that it happens sooner rather than later. But it is something that's really motivated me to get back. And I think we've had a couple of times where we have been able to walk out and, I don't know, there's a song playing and you walk out with your teammates, but there's a couple of photos that I have back from Vixen's days, and then even with Magpies, and just you walk out there. It's pretty cool to do it with your teammates, but you're walking out there with your sister. You're probably talking about something that happened, I don't know, last week at training, and you're just having a laugh and you're trying to stay calm before a game. But that's the stuff that I really love. And then I sort of think about us being on the court, and I think about it often. It's, if I do any visualization or any sort of if I'm ever struggling with rehab or feeling like I'm ever going to play netball again, because at the moment sometimes I'm like, this leg isn't working. I think like you sort of get in this flow state a bit. You get out there, you play with your sister and your best mate. Like, I don't know how much like cooler could that be? And that's what I often think about, just when things are getting tough at the moment. That hopefully one day we might get out there, and it's felt good at training before, and I just hope it feels exactly like it is in my head at the moment.
Yeah. For me, honestly, it will be, although we've done it at Vixens, I just think at Magpies, because of the journey that both of us have had to even go away, come back, go through a lot of personal stuff, it'll probably be the greatest netball moment of my life if it ever happens. Like, honestly.
Okay, now I'm crying.
Honestly, it will. Like, I will literally stand there and, if we're just standing there on that transverse line, and if I'm visualising it, like, I will probably break into tears, because I'll be like, I cannot believe this is finally happening. And trust me, I tried to put my leg in a brace to plaster it up, and I begged the surgeon and the physio to be like, can I just go out there for 5 seconds? Like, just 5 seconds.
To play with my sister.
No. And I was like, hate you all. But anyway, as I said, it will be, if we can do this, then, it will be my best moment in sport ever.
Okay, now it's set to be 2021 for Kelsey because of Kelsey's rehab.
Well, who knows? As I said, we might brace her up and get her out there.
I'm telling everyone that I'm back round one. I don't know what everybody else is talking about. What's that, like 7 months or something? I'm just telling everyone, I'm back round one.
Well, brace yourselves, Magpie fans, netball fans, because look out round one for the Suncorp Super Netball. Because we might just have an unbelievable match on our hands. And Kelsey, yours is the left, is it? So, and yours is the right. So you make a great pair.
One good pair of knees.
We said that. We said we may used to, or we were unpredictable, but now we're going to be very predictable. I'm only heading to the left and she's only ever heading to the right, but that's okay.
Don't worry about it. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to the two of you, the sister act of Madi and Kelsey Browne. Thank you so much. Thanks, Kels, for interrupting your picnic up there in Sydney. Maddie, for coming over. And it's been an absolute pleasure. I've loved it. It's been one of my most favourite interviews I've ever done in 25 years. So there you go. I really appreciate it. And to all of our listeners, thank you for tuning in. You can tune in next week with another Australian female sports star. And if you want to follow us on social media, it's hashtag Sportswomen Australia. That's for Instagram and Facebook, and Sportswomen Australia AU for Twitter. And Madi Browne's is at Madi Browne __, and Kelsey, yours is at Kelsey Browne _ So follow all of us and tune in for the next show. Enjoy the rest of your rehab, both of you, but I look forward to that match, certainly. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.